Pano, thanks for joining us. Welcome, everybody, to a special episode of Talk Commerce. We're live here at Shoptalk Fall in Chicago, and I'm here with Pano Anthos of XRC Ventures. Pano, the first thing I wanted to ask you is that, reading your press kit, I see you guys are founded at the intersection of consumer behavior and technology, and you're a founding member. So I wanted to ask you what it is about that combination that you found so intriguing and saw so much potential in.
Well, first of all, consumers are responsible for $2 trillion in spend and a massive portion of our GDP. So whatever they do, we should pay attention to, number one. Number two, they tend to be relatively much faster early adopters of technology than corporations. So if you really want to know what's happening is what is the consumer doing with technology? It could be kids, could be adults, doesn't really matter. We love enterprises, don't get me wrong. We are big supporters of retail, and we have a number of retail LPs. But retailers, like most corporations, move to a certain drumbeat about adoptions. And so if you really want to understand where things are going, get to the consumer first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know just personally, I tend to make decisions a lot faster with my own spending than with my company's spending. So I can definitely see how that plays out.
Absolutely.
And it actually makes me think of a point that was brought up in the panel that you hosted today, which is that a big part of successful AI implementation has to do not just with the technology itself, but with the culture within a company for the whole organization to adapt and think about those things and change their mindset. Could you talk a little bit about what a successful organizational mindset is when it comes to adopting tech like agentic AI?
Well, I think what you heard on the panel was that, first of all, stuff has to be written down.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, you have to have a set of goals. And then you have to compare what you do today to your goals and decide, is this set of processes worth automating, replacing? So there's a lot of process reengineering that goes on. And then you ultimately decide, all right, so we know here are the rules. We all agree on these rules. That's when you encode them with AI to figure out the rules. You have to really lay out the rules first. And that's the misconception about autonomous AI, is that it will make decisions within boundaries, but you have to set those boundaries or you get nothing. You get craziness.
Yeah.
You get George Washington being African-American or something stupid in terms of history, right?
Great. Well, this might be kind of a step back, but it is a question I wanted to ask and get your answer to, which is just tell us, for those who are late to the party, what is agentic AI? How would you define it?
Well, so agentic AI has some key components. One is it's adaptive with respect to integration. So you need to have agents that can integrate to existing systems fairly easily. They have to be supple. They have to be API oriented, but that's not sufficient. They've got to be autonomous. They have to be able to run and make decisions within some boundaries. And when we talk about that, the boundaries are corporate governance boundaries as well as consumer boundaries. So when I went through that definition, right, there were 4 key things. Autonomous planning, so it does its own decision-making. Adaptive reasoning, so it learns and remodels the behavior. It doesn't just simply try the same thing over and over again. It's tool integration, so it's working around a number of systems. And it's goal-oriented. It's goal-directed. You have to set what the goals are. If you want conversion, talking about conversion, if you want conversion to be 20%, 30%, 40% of sale, whatever, you've got to specify that, and it works toward that goal. That is also part of the challenge because goals can conflict, right? You can optimize for the wrong thing if you're not careful.
Right.
You get not bad behavior, you get results you really don't want.
Right. Optimize for traffic, but let the conversion plummet or something along those lines. Could you tell us maybe about a really exciting concrete example of agentic AI that you've worked with or seen or do you think illustrates its capabilities?
Yeah, actually, we're about to invest in a company that is using agentic in the supply chain space. So you think, well, supply chain, how does that relate? Well, customers expect products, and there's all this work that has to be done between plants and manufacturers to deliver the product. So what happens is when a manufacturer says, I want to build something, they start contracting with manufacturers to build it, usually, not their own. That contraction process, not just the initial contract, but then the placing of the purchase order and then the revisions and then the back and forths, is a very set of manual tasks today. Sure, there's some automation of the purchase order in terms of like it's printed, it's PDF, but really the back and forth is very tedious and manual and requires a lot of supervision. We can't make the ship date of, 413. Okay. Then they come back as, well, how about 414? So there's back and forth. All that, this team out of Israel has figured out how to automate using an LLM to basically take all those messages that are going back and forth and intermediate, literally intercept them in appropriate ways, and then make decisions based on the rules that have been set by the organization. So it's delivery dates. It's like, okay, you get a 2-day window or 1-day window or whatever it is, or these other things have to happen for this date to be accepted. That one's a really exciting one. They're growing really fast because it's a big pain point. We've been investing in AI for a while. I wouldn't have called it agentic AI, but that has more to do, I think, with the fact that LLMs now are so accessible. You used to have to train your data, which was the whole point of it, machine learning or computer vision. They're a big, exhaustive exercise. It's so much easier now. And actually, almost any AI application at its core has the ability to be agentic if it's turned to use and let run. And most of them are. So it's really, I wish I could say, oh, it's something different. It really isn't at the end of the.
Yeah, I'm getting the idea that it's less of a solid line in the sand and more of a spectrum of, highly agentic AI to less and less agentic AI.
I mean, even let's take the example was Waymo, right? At the panel. Waymo is far more agentic than the Tesla full self-driving feature, because Tesla requires you to keep your hands on the wheel, even though, well, at least touch it every now and then.
Right.
Waymo, there's no one in the car, right? But Paul's point was like, why is there a steering wheel? And why is there a driver's seat, right? Yeah. So even in something that you see as being more loosely coupled or more detached from a person or human, you still have this ability to essentially, and my guess is the steering wheel is there for a reason.
Right.
If something goes wrong, you got to be able to like interface, interdict it. Yeah.
Okay. So a large part of our audience, and really a lot of people I work with, are small e-commerce shops, maybe 3, 4, 5 people running the show. What are some examples or like implementations of agentic AI that those types of entrepreneurs or business people should be looking at?
So there's a lot being done right now in both customer support, which you heard about, and in search. So the thing that I recommend to these e-commerce providers, these small e-commerce solutions, is you got to really understand where you sit in the AI stack. Just like with Google, you say, well, where are you in your ranking, in a website ranking? You kind of have to understand where you sit by asking the agents or the chat engines, do you know I exist? Right? And then realizing how they go about, and this is very manual today, but how they go about collecting their data, because they actually tell you the sources they're pulling from. And then making sure that you go back to those sources and you become the best of the content of those sources. It's fairly manual today. It's not that different than it was in the early days of Google.
Right.
With backlinking. You would sit there and do backlinks all day long and just say, hey, can you link to me? Can you link to me? And or kind of increase your status.
Yeah. What have you heard as far as key methods of getting yourself recognized by, say, ChatGPT as an important source?
It's Reddit. I would say if you look at every one of these engines, they go to Reddit. They don't have access to Amazon. So if you look at reviews, you got a problem right away. You don't get the Amazon reviews. If you ask any consumer and you look at the agents, they're not looking at the website reviews very much because frankly, website reviews, are they really true? But Reddit, you get pretty bald-faced honest.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people I've talked to, and myself included, will type Reddit and then, whatever you wanted to ask, because you'll get a more unbiased opinion.
That's right. So that is, but we've been saying this about the consumer brand space for years. You got to build a community. You got to be on Reddit. You have to be part of the conversation, and you can't be selling. I mean, that's the whole point, is no one wants to hear you moaning and pitching and blah, blah, but you need to be part of the conversation, which is, why do you exist? What's the problem you're solving? Talk about the problem.
Yeah, this was going to lead exactly into my next question, which is, Reddit has like no tolerance for BS and self-promotion. So how do companies position themselves on Reddit?
Authentic, and you got to be accurate on the content and the problem that you're going to try to solve. And, you can always just warn people, FYI, this is my company, but your case you're making is independent of your company, and that's important. And then people will respect it, and then they'll take another stab at it, or they'll get at it, or whatever. You just have to be transparent about it. You just can't hide it. I'm an independent consultant when in fact you're trying to sell your own company.
Okay, so another area that I saw highlighted from your team was specifically about CAC and
Mhm.
agentic AI. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, you saw one of the fellows, co-frame, is got all about landing pages and conversion rates. I mean, CAC is one of those constant whack-a-moles. You never solve it. You solve for it. And I think volume makes a difference. So I like what co-frame is trying to do. I like what Manju is trying to do over at Spangle. Because I do think that anything that you can do to improve is gold. If you've paid for that customer, or if that customer's found you one way or the other, as long as they're not a bot, what are you gonna do with them?
Hmm.
How do you take them forward? So those solutions are good ones. I mean, there's always where the one bounces, or the companies that are out there for a long time. They're going to have to morph if they haven't morphed already. They're all going into this agentic framework. They don't have a choice. If you had a traditional, Java based, or Python based solution, or Rails, you had to rethink it with respect to, well, this agentic environment, and how to allow personalization to happen on its own.
Yeah, makes sense. Maju said something that kind of blew my mind during the talk, which was, people don't always go to your physical store anymore, but you still sell to them. And what we might see next is people don't go to your website anymore. They'll
I
sell to
guarantee
them.
that's not going to happen. I guarantee that's going to happen. Talked about that. I actually have a whole PowerPoint presentation I gave to the French consulate during NRF in January. I said, your website is toast. Unless you are a fashion oriented product where discovery is important and inspiration is important, and it's truly discretionary, the chat engines are going to take over. So if it's a hard good, if it's bottled water, what's
Yeah,
the best bottled water on the market? What's the best anything? Anytime you ask what's the best, it's over. You're not going to go to your website. And they're going to take the results. If you look at Perplexity Shopping as an example, they'll take those results and they'll provide a checkout page right there. You don't have to go anywhere else.
yeah,
Dix does this, and Dix is in danger of losing that website traffic. But at the same time, if they get the sale, doesn't matter.
right.
Now, what they do lose, however, if they don't, there's some compounding effects, and one of those is retail media. So if your website traffic goes down, your retail media spend revenue goes down. You know what retail media is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that's an important component in ad spend today, and it's revenue for the brand
yeah.
retailers. There's going to be some hell to pay, and some business model shifting around
Right.
if checkout really does happen outside of the website, which it can do.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of it, might be headed in the direction of completely being automated, like the bottled water example you gave, just monitor our inventory. We need stuff that delivers within 2 days and whenever,
Well, that's true.
price.
Enterprise.
Yeah, I could see this whole set of parameters, with
Completely.
water it
Reorder.
might be fairly limited, but
But
it's
no,
more
I think,
complicated. Yeah,
you just look at reorders and you automate. There's also restocking is now, there's a lot of automation and restocking anyway.
already.
Because their planning systems are looking at what's the buy, how much we bought, how much is
Right.
sold, and how much do we need, going forward.
Mhm.
It's really more the consumer experience of the website being unnecessary.
Yeah,
So you have all these small e-commerce brands. I would figure out how to be on complexity shopping early and not be left behind. Your website is not important. No offense, but unless you're a fashion brand or you're an influencer of some magnitude, your website's going to be irrelevant.
yeah. How soon do you think that will be true?
It's already happening, but again, it's going to be in those hard goods spaces where comparison really matters.
Uh,
Like TVs and hard goods and electronics. I mean, you compare them all day long. Anytime you say what's the best,
Right.
so that business is happening. I would say I would give it, given the volume of people using the chat engines today, ChatGPT is going to do shopping pretty soon. They've already said they're going to do that.
Hmm.
Alexia already has it, although it's a separate website. It's a weird conglomeration. They haven't really made it part of the core layers. Like if in the chat service itself, if you just type the chat in, like request in, I might hit a shopping framework. That's real,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, interesting times. So I
Yeah.
would say year maybe, and you're going to see more and more traffic. The traffic is just going to drop.
Right. I guess another thing that I see a lot in my line of business is companies like some of the larger businesses, maybe B2B, switching to, more customized frameworks for their website like Magento or something.
Mm.
And I know those do a lot of work on the back end too. Do you think that side of things will still be relevant even as
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have a checkout page that's going to be inside Perplexity as you
uh-huh.
do today with Shop or any of these, third-party checkout environments. And you're going to get the transaction. You'll get the email addresses. You get the first-party data, but you will not have the opportunity to sell more of other things. So my example is the bike radar example, right?
Mhm.
So have you ever used Perplexity Shop?
No, actually.
Your listeners won't be able to kind of figure out what we're doing necessarily, but it's scary. So, okay. So first of all, come up to a website screen and I don't know, I don't know why barbecue was showing up, but it is. But let's say, what is the best? This is my favorite. Spelled delay, right? Yeah. So it looks at searching Garmin, looks at best cycling gear, looks at all these different sites. There are several. Okay. So right away, you're getting all of the information that you would otherwise go to a website for here. The rating, the reviews, the number of you can actually click on the reviews right here. The buy now button, it's right there. So if I choose Wahoo Tracker, this is it. I don't go to their website.
Right.
I'm buying it through REI. I'm not even going to REI's website. I'm buying with Pro. That's it. Tons of content, review sources, all the places, Reddit's here, cycling
Right.
news, cycling subs. It's doing in seconds what it would have taken anyone, including you or me, hours to research.
Right.
Hours. So why would you ever do it any other way? The minute anyone finds out that this is available, it's game over.
Right. And also because I'm sure you can customize it to other things you're looking for.
Of course.
So, it's a completely personalized landing
Absolutely.
page.
It's like having a concierge at your fingertips.
Yeah. And then to go back to a point you just made, the whole like loss leader or like, get one thing to win their business and cross sell them other things.
Can't do it.
Right.
Doesn't make sense. It's a
So,
big problem. It's going to
yeah.
be a big, big problem on cross.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, we all know AI is disrupting all kinds of things and will continue to do so. I think a big lesson from that is like it's going to change a lot of things and disrupt a lot of things. But in that area, there's obviously a lot of opportunity if you're ahead of the curve in the way that
You are, for that transaction, yes. To build some brand awareness, maybe. Cross sell, absolutely not. Flexity permits it because they're owning that. And then you don't even have control of the cross sell. They could bring someone else's cross sell. They could
Right.
provide advertising, and they will. They're going to have advertising, and they're going to basically allow people to promote their products when a bicycle radar taillight gets entered.
Yeah.
It is the Wild West. But as I said, I think the way you win as a small e-commerce brand is you've got to be on top of every content engine. You got to be the best. If you're a taillight, if you're making taillights, if you're Garmin, you better be in cycling news, in all these places. Like it's work.
Right. Okay. So what would you tell your content team who's been creating like web pages and blogs and stuff on your site to start doing?
Start using the engines and asking all the questions that any consumer, and they give you all the questions that consumers can ask.
Mm-hmm.
And go figure out whether you're in the top 3 or top 1 or top 2. And if you're not, look at the sources and go to those sources and go figure out how to get yourself exposed to those sources. Now, if your product sucks, then you got no hope
Right.
because you can't fake. The engines aren't faked easily.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be gamed maybe by advertising, but they're not going to be faked. Reddit's not faked.
Right.
So you can't really get away with that. Most people don't know what Reddit is. Over the age of 40, no one knows what Reddit is. So that's the problem is that, or 45, whatever. So there's a whole class of customer that brands could sell today because they have an inferior product, but no one really knows that.
Right. But
Amazon.
now the AI is about to bring Reddit to the masses.
Exactly. It's going to bring transparency, which is great for everyone. It's going to make manufacturers make better products. So I think that's a good thing. I always think transparency is a better thing than obscuring or hiding or believing that inaccessibility is your best.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all those insights on small businesses. I guess to wrap things up though, let me go out to a bigger perspective. What do you think happens to like Google and the like legacy
Google's
search engines?
I mean, Google, it's not toast. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
But the judges in the trial that just came out last week or 2 weeks ago, it's pretty obvious that the judge knows that what we all know is Google search in the traditional SEO, SEM world, it's moving hyper fast. I mean, think about how many users are on ChatGPT today and on Perplexity and on Claude. And then you imagine they're already asking these questions. They're not maybe getting shopping experience, but they're going to get one.
Right.
And if they don't get a shopping experience, they at least get answers. You don't need Google items. So what Google has been betting on is that you're going to use their search bar. But, and this is the big but, I think the only way they win on the search front with Gemini or whatever to kind of is by buying their way onto your phone, by buying your way onto Safari, anywhere where you would, you hit the browser and what do you get first? Well, right now, it's Safari, you get Google.
Right.
Because you pay for it. They pay billions for that. They're going to pay a lot more because maybe not, but they're going to have to pay dearly to keep that title.
Yeah.
And I think that then it's a question if the browsers don't get the action because, Plexi's got their own browser now.
Right.
It's not the best browser in the world. It's kind of painful to use. I've used it. You can't just type in domain names easily. It's like complexity dot.
Yeah.
But
we're early in the game.
It's too early. But you can see where their head is, which is like, oh, wait a minute. I could have a browser do 50, 30, 80 tasks, engineer it differently and change what a browser does. It could be more of a butler than a browser. Browsers made sense in the Google world. Doesn't make sense going forward.
Right.
So it'd be really interesting to see what happens. So I think Google, again, they'll last a lot longer than anyone could possibly imagine. I think there's still a Kmart store around somewhere. It's hard to kill a company. And I don't think Google wants to go down and they've got plenty of money, but they're going to have to spend a lot to keep people's attention.
Yeah.
A lot. If I didn't use Gemini in my little presentation, I use Claude, Perplexity, and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Gemini is like, I don't even think about Gemini.
Same.
Exactly. Think about that for a moment. When was 10 years ago, Google was everything.
5, I would say.
Google this. Google that. I'm sorry?
5, I would say. Yeah. 5 years ago.
Google this. Google that.
Yeah.
It's a verb. Google it. That's not going to be the case anymore.
Yeah. Well, and then think about Yahoo, or AOL, they were massive in their day and now they're these dinosaurs that are kind of irrelevant. So.
It's the innovator's dilemma. And the reality is Google had a shot, could have very easily built ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That's the classic innovator's dilemma. And they screwed it up because they were sitting too fat and happy with too much revenue and still believing that they could be disrupted.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Pano. You've given us a lot to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
We usually end with a chance for you to pitch one thing or send people one place. Our listeners, where should they go to learn more or to, where would you like them to?
I mean, I think our website's good. Our LinkedIn page, we do a lot of LinkedIn content. We have 2 great Substacks, a consumer tech Substack with about 15, 20,000 subs already, and a brand fund Substack. Our Substacks are really a lot of activity today. And, use technology, use our startups.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much again for your time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Talk Commerce is a production of Content Basis, LLC. For more creative content, go to contentbasis.io.